Hello everyone! Today I want to show you the video that I recorded earlier. It's about making the bezel set on a rose cut stone. And before we begin, I just want to tell you that this is not a tutorial. It's more like an activity that I recorded. And obviously, the process is edited and organized so that you won't be confused and still be able to follow the process. My true intention here is to encourage an open ended discussion. Hopefully, we can keep it lighthearted and aiming to create a more engaging, entertaining, and educational experience for everyone involved. So, let's grab a cup of coffee or tea and let's dive into this conversation together. This is how the necklace will look like when it's finished. The material is in silver. The stone is a rose-cut oval moss agate. The dimension is around 5 times 7 millimeter. The stone is set in bezel set and the finishing is satin finish. Can you guess which one of these stones that my client chose? I will let you know the answer by the end of this video. Okay, right now, using a pair of caliper, I'm measuring the height of the wall and add 1 millimeter above the curve so that the bezel can envelop around it. Thus, it will lock the stone. I also need to think about adding more of the millimeters because the back plate is as thick as 1.3 millimeters. So right now what I do next is to mark the length along the side of this 28 gauge plate. I haven't been doing this far too often, so I'm not sure if I like using the 26 or 28 gauge silver plate. Here I am cutting the strip off using a pair of metal shears that I will straightening it up with the parallel layers. Once it's flattened, then I roll it around the stone like this and hoping to get the good length to cover the stone. I was reading the other day that there is another way to find the exact circumference of the oval stone, which is to add the height and the width of the stone and then divide that into two. That'll be the diameters. And with that number, we can find the circumference by plugging in those numbers into the formula, which is C equals to pi times D. Let me know if you want me to add the formula in the description below. Alright, next step is to file the two edges and move these as close as possible so that the two edges is touching for it to be able to be soldered together. It's a very tiny shape, so I need the flat nose plier to move it around, and I also would like to add a tension between the two sides so it stays in place. I'm prepping the component and I added the flux. I also put the solder chip underneath the gap and I'm heating it up slowly. So basically, I'm pointing my torch on the item. I'm carefully heating the component, but not too much because of the size and because I have burned the pieces very often. So I learned my lesson. Just point the torch, and when it's done, I just quench it with water. Alright, let's have a check. It turned out that the bezel is too small, so let's do this trick. I'm using the bezel mandrel and bench vise to enlarge it. I'm just gonna let you watch what I do. Here I just pinch it a little bit with the vise and then I hammer. Once I think that it is done, I'm just pitching it a little bit using the parallel pliers to make an oval shape. Alright, let's check it. Alright, I think it's good now. It fits better. I guess I'm going to move on to making back plate. Like mentioned earlier, I'm going to use 16 gauge round wire. I'm forming this wire oval exactly on the size of the stone. It's a meticulous work where I fork it millimeter by millimeter to really make sure that it fits into the bezel. So I really take time doing it, especially like I said earlier that I haven't been doing this for quite often, so um, I'm not sure. Now I'm using the ring clamp to hold this and file off the edges so that I can solder close the two edges. I hope that you're understanding this so far. So I'm closing the back plate and hopefully the shape is oval enough so it's going to stay just underneath the stone. Oof, I'm so lucky it fits, so I don't have to make another adjustment anymore. I'm just pressing it using my flat nose pliers. Okay, it's time for soldering now. Here I'm prepping the item as usual, putting on enough flux so it will not burn. And on top of the seam, I just place the solder bits. I'm going to put 3 or 4 so that it can completely melt around the gap of the back plate and the bezel wall. And I aim the fire to the hottest flame, but do not point it all the time. If you want to know, I'm actually scared at this point because I can burn the component very easily. They're very small. But I'm gonna be confident here. Once the solder melts, I like to keep on firing so it melts even deeper so that there's no more space between the two components. It seems like it's done. Again, I quench it using the water. I don't use the pickle yet because I need to solder the bale after at the end. For the bale, I'm using 18 gauge wire. Again, I'm not sure if I should use 16 gauge or 18 gauge, but since this is a small pendant, I feel like 18 gauge would be more suitable. I'm shaping the bale and make sure that it is straight and again prep it to be soldered in. Okay, this is a very tricky part. I want the bale to be installed right above the vertical oval. So I'm using the third hand and this is um, very hard to stabilize. And this is the industrial weight that will hold the pieces together. And this time I also heat up the solder apart so I don't have to heat up the component for too long. So I just heat up the solder slowly and I pick it up with the titanium pick and I just apply it slowly on the gap. Whoa, done finally. Felt like it takes forever to heat those up. Okay, I'm detaching the pieces, and now that I don't have to solder in anything, I can quench it using the pickle. Here is the final check to see if all the solders are melting. And okay, out of the pickle now. A close-up shot after being pickled. It's still a little bit dirty, but that's okay. I can just wipe it off with a cloth. And now fit tests. It's fit. I'm so happy. Okay, right now I'm just cleaning up the rough edges. Um, using the sandpaper. I think this time is a 300 grit sandpaper. I'm just go ahead and follow along with it. Basically, I'm smoothing out the back plate, the sides, and the top part. So when it is folded, it would look nice and even. I'm also cutting out a little bit of the top part because it looks like it's not smooth. And the sanding process is I'm using first the 300 grit sandpaper like I told you, and then moving up to 400 grit sandpaper and 600, 800, and all the way to 1000 and 1500. Because it's a satin finish, I don't have to smoothen it up completely. So I'll show you how it's done. Here I'm also cleaning up the inside part to make room for the stone. It's already fit, I know, but remember the wire that I'm using, it's round. So the inside of the back plate is a little bit round. So I would like to make it flat a little bit. Okay, now I'm setting the stone using the pusher. There's nothing special about my pusher, so you can just buy it anywhere at the jewelry supply store. And I even nicked the bezel there for a while. So I need to burnish it slowly without leaving any trace on the stone. It's very tricky. And I'm so lucky because the hardness of the green moss agate is 6.5 to 7 moss scale. So this makes it relatively durable. And lastly, for the satin finish, I'm using this trick the French jeweler using, which is using the steel wool. I'm just rubbing it against the surface everywhere, and it will give me this beautiful satin finish. And after this, I'm basically done. Here I'm showing you my previous work using the same stone set, same finishing, only this time instead of the pendant is a stud earrings. Thank you so much for watching until the end. With this, I hope to inspire you to reflect on your own journey and perhaps find some encouragement in my process. If you are interested in jewelry making, metal smithing, wire wrapping, or a simple DIY project, I invite you to give me a shout out here on the comment below, subscribe to my channel, or simply like this video. Okay, by the way, the answer is the stone number 2. Okay guys, this is the end of the video. I would like to say goodbye now, and until next time, goodbye.